Hello everyone, welcome back to my workbench up here in the study at Donget's Model Railway. There have been problems sourcing Zimo decoders, particularly 21-pin decoders, for a long time now. Zimo decoders were badly affected by the shortage in electronics manufacturing capacity created by government lockdown policies around the world. The MX Series chips were particularly affected, and UK retail sold out of 21-pin MX chips a long time ago, with retailers not expecting to see more deliveries. The newer MS Series sound decoders are not as badly affected. They are made on a more modern process node, where there is less of a capacity problem. Now, I can't afford to go fit a sound decoder to everything, and even if I could, I'm not sure I'd want to. The few sound models I've had, I've honestly not been impressed with, and I suspect sound doesn't suit my layout design or how I operate. But Zimo then announced they were making a new series of decoders. Take an MS Series decoder and strip the sound part out, but still using the more modern process node to avoid the capacity issues, and you have an MN Series chip. Local retailers appear to expect this to completely replace the MX Series, and some have delisted the MX Series entirely from their websites. I wanted to try out an MN Series decoder to see how it differs from the earlier MX Series and whether it will be a good replacement. Unfortunately, 21-pin decoders seem to be the last ones scheduled for production, and also have the most backed up demand, so I haven't been able to get my hands on one yet. But I did manage to get my hands on an MN Series Plux22 decoder. Plux22 decoders, despite the name, have 21 pins. So why did we need another 21-pin decoder standard when there already is one? Plux is not one socket design, but a system. Plux 12, 16 and 22 sockets and decoders are all pin compatible. You can plug any decoder into any socket. To achieve this, the key pin is in the center, along with the track and motor connections. Functions are numbered from the inside towards the outside. Should we need even more functions in future, it could easily be extended by adding more pins without making current decoders or sockets obsolete. All things considered, it's a very clever standard. This is an MN330P22 Plux22 decoder. Now I just need a Plux22 model to test it in. Nope, nothing here. Everything I have so far is either 8 or 21 pin. This is turning out to be an expensive decoder review when I have to buy a loco to do it. Doubly so because there are relatively few UK outlined Plux22 models, and the vast majority are new tool Bachmann which have a rather high RRP. More than I'm willing to pay for a loco if I'm being honest. But, needs must, I have a decoder to review. I want a new loco from a retailer, not a second-hand model. You don't know for sure if it doesn't have some kind of hidden problem that caused the previous owner to move it on, or if they've made things worse trying to change things themselves. Neither of these would make for a fair test to review a decoder with. So here I have a new tool Bachmann Class 37 at the deepest discount I could find, new from a retailer, with the all-important Plux22 socket. It's a split headcode version in BR Blue. This is the product code. And this is the specific Zimo decoder I'm using. Installing the decoder is pretty much exactly what we're used to. Pull the body off and swap the blanking plug for the decoder. Getting the body off this model requires removing 8 screws, one at each bogie corner. There are no internal clips to worry about, but there is a lot of wiring between the chassis and the body. The only difference here is the pins are on the decoder side and not on the model side. Immediately I had a problem. The red and white marker lights on both ends of the Class 37 were flickering rapidly. If I slow the footage down, you can see the flickering more clearly. Shout out to Coastal DCC, who I bought the decoder from. They figured this out straight away when I asked them for advice. Zimo have enabled SUSI by default on this decoder, and Bachmann's circuit board in the 37 is doing some really odd things with the lights, and assumed SUSY would be disabled, so those outputs can be used as logic level outputs 9 and 10. With a single CV change to disable SUSY, that problem was solved. Decoder-wise, everything else was pretty straightforward. It will be very familiar to anyone who has seen an MX decoder before, as the CV layout has not changed much if at all from the MX series. The only notable change from my perspective is the MN series has not inherited the change that made braking distance independent of maximum speed. That was fixed in the MX series version 39 firmware, so with an MN series decoder you will still need to tune speed before tuning braking distance, like you did on the MX series version 37 firmware and earlier. Other than that, the decoder does a great job of constant distance braking, exactly as you'd expect from Zimo. The 37 though, I'm not as happy with that. The function map is very strange, particularly compared to the previous loco I worked on, which was the Oscision NR class. The NR was wonderful to work with in comparison to this 37. On Bachmann's class 37, the front and rear headlight outputs operate the white marker lights and red tail lights at both ends of the loco. You can also tell it to switch the lights off at a given end. This is output 1 and 2 for the number 1 and number 2 ends respectively. My example doesn't have a main headlight at all, but if it was fitted with one, turning it on would be on output 5. This appears to be combined with the head and tail light outputs to work out which end it should show the headlight on. The engine room light is on output 4, and the cab lights are on output 6 and 7. And then we get to output 9, which forces red lights on both ends of the loco, and output 10, which forces white marker lights on both ends of the loco. These functions are so high up the function map, they are on pins normally used for either SUSY or to control a servo. Hence why the lights appeared to be at half brightness. What we were seeing was a digital pulse signal turning the lights on and off both ends of the loco very rapidly. So just to show white and red marker lights on each end of the loco, something that Oscision achieved with 4 function outputs requires 6 on the Bachmann loco. I don't get why Bachmann have done that. Wiring the lights this way requires more function output pins on the chip to achieve less flexibility overall, and appears to give no solid benefit. The only marginal benefit is that the function mapping provides a slightly simpler UI for people who wanted to use a third-party decoder but cannot or will not set up function maps or virtual functions. I'd much rather have the lights wired up in a more simplistic but flexible manner, and if I wanted to avoid separately switching marker lights and tail lights to change ends, I could configure the function map in the decoder to achieve what I wanted. As it is, I can't really do anything in the decoder's function map to improve what we have. To improve this from where it is would require hacking into the circuit board and removing functions. So in conclusion, I like the Zimo MN series decoders. They are a competent replacement for the MX series decoders. The MN330P22 has passed the acceptance test, and I'm happy to have these on the layout in quantity. If the MX series do indeed never return, as various local retailers have told me they aren't likely to, the MN series are a suitable replacement decoder. The only downside is there doesn't seem to be a low-cost variant like the old MX 638D in the MN range. But locos are over twice the RRP now than they were when I started buying what were then £20 MX 638Ds. So if I have to live with a £34 decoder now, I suppose I'll just have to get over it, really. And even if the MX 638D did return, the chances of it still being £20 are nil anyway, given the rampant inflation we've had, again caused by government lockdown policy. I do like the Plux Socket. It's a very clever socket format. However, it has limited usage in the UK market. I do wish we could see some Zimo 21 MTC decoders back in stock, because that's what most UK models seem to use at the moment, and I have a backlog of locos and units awaiting chipping. I'm not very impressed with how the functions are set up in the 22-pin Bachmann model I got for this review. I think Bachmann needs to take a leaf out of Oscision's book in this regard, and stop trying to make every light configuration a unique output so it can map to a function with zero programming, and instead focus more on attaching individual lights to outputs and leaning on the configurability of the decoder to set up the best interface. How they have it now is wasteful in output lines and less flexible than it should be. If you are enjoying this video or finding it useful, hit the like button. If you want to see more of my layout or the stock I run on it, hit the subscribe button. If you have a question, comment or suggestion, write it in the comment section below. See you next time up here in the study at Donget's Model Railway.